again now.
Hopefully your internet holds up. Just got a little choppy. There we go. Maybe. Okay.
Got me okay? Maybe. I think it's loading. I think as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
So once it's loading, we should be good. Because I've been able to do this
Awesome.
before without any issues.
I don't even know where to click live tab on YouTube to view it.
Yeah. I don't know either. This is only the second time. Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, loud and clear, buddy.
All right, man. Cool. We're good to go. All right, we're live on YouTube and recording as well. For those who don't want to watch it live, they want to listen later. That's fine too, right?
It works both ways. Live, recorded. It's good to see you, man. I haven't seen you since the Total Archery Challenge.
Yeah, yeah. Are you representing Sorinex there today? It looks like.
Oh, I didn't even notice this. This is going to be my pre-workout shirt after this interview. So,
Good. This
just
is this is a good
gotta
plug
love
for good
Sorinex.
people. Got Bert over there, man, doing good things.
We actually just had him
Did
on the
you
show
have you seen?
yesterday.
Oh, you did. Cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
Bert's as solid as they come. Have you seen that new off grid rack they have?
Yeah, we were talking in depth about that, about kind of flash to bang on how in a week they went from ideation component of how do we get this home gym modulation thing to work into production, which was very impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing what people can do when their back's against the wall a little bit and things need to happen. I guess necessity is the mother of all invention, as the saying goes, right?
That's very true. And like it's pretty cool though. You're kind of seeing some, even though there's some tragic times happening, you're seeing some pretty cool stuff come out of it, which is a little bit of silver lining.
Yeah, for sure. How's it been going with Black Rifle? How have you guys been impacted by what's going on in the world?
Man, we're doing pretty good to be honest with you. We're business is doing all right, and we're actually kind of hiring some more people right now. So hopefully, if people are impacted by the economy and their own jobs, we can hopefully get some people employed. So we're stoked to be doing that. But can't complain. We're very very fortunate and very lucky that we're an essential business. So.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, so that's what it's you're classified as an essential business. I'm always curious, like what makes a business essential? You know what I mean? It's like and who gets to decide that? That's the interesting thing.
I'm
Is
not
like you
sure
can't
anybody
define that.
knows.
I think that's kind of the point too. Like if we can make sure everybody's confused and everybody's bitching and moaning and bickering at each other, then we can wrestle some power and control while everybody's distracted.
We were talking about on Free Range American, our podcast, about how we're convinced this is aliens, and the quarantine is essentially getting all of us to learn how to hide in our houses, and we had to wear face masks because we can't breathe on aliens, and they're going to come harvest the core of the earth. And so that's where we're
You
at.
know,
That's my tinfoil hat strategy.
to me, I mean, that's as legitimate as anything else that I'm hearing these days based on like the statistics and the data and the conflicting stories from multiple sides. Like, this is a crazy time, man. It is absolutely wild right now.
It is very insane, and it's very interesting to see kind of how people are thinking through this. It's been bizarre to see people getting arrested for going to parks. Like I don't know what kind of fucking world we're living in right now, but it is bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, at some point we got to question like, okay, this is not about keeping people safe and healthy. Like these individuals, they're going outside like where nobody else is. They're social distancing, they're being responsible. They're going to the park to play with their kids. It's absolutely ludicrous that we're in a situation in a position. And look, I understand like we want to be safe, we want to be protected, we want to make sure that societally things are good as a whole, but at this point, man, it's just gotten out of hand. It's too wild for me. I'm fed up like a lot of people I'm sure are.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are. I mean, it's you can go into depth on this, and I think it's a little bit taxing because everybody's talking about it, and I think everybody has their own personal opinions. But for me, it's just kind of like I'm just trying to get back to work. Keep doing good shit, motivate people, and hire people. So that's like I always say, you can focus on start with your individual self first before you start complaining about others. So make the change yourself, and then hopefully inspire others to change as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, how many people do we talk with who are like, yeah, I want to change the world? And look, I've said that. Like, I want to make my dent. I want to make a difference. I want to make an impact in the world. And yet, you can't even get out of bed when the alarm goes off, right? It's like do that first, and then we can worry about changing the world.
So what have you been up to, man? Like during all this stuff, how's business going for you? Is your life changed a little bit? How's the family? Like, give me the update, man.
Yeah, man, things are good. Fortunately for us, we moved here to Maine about a year ago. I don't know if you knew that.
Okay.
Did you know that?
I did not.
Yeah, we moved to Maine about, I think it's been 11 months. Yeah, the end of this month will be a full year, which is insane to think about. So yeah, I mean, it's been good. I've worked at home for like the past 5 or 6 years. So I'm here doing the same thing. My kids, we started homeschooling them when we moved out here. So almost a year of homeschooling. I say we, I really actually mean my wife. My wife's homeschooling them. But yeah, man, it's been really good. We've got some land out here. I go hunting every day for the last week or so now, trying to get myself and my oldest boy a turkey. We're not having any luck there. The business stuff is phenomenal, man. It's just been growing. I think anytime you put out information where you're trying to give people ideas and insight to improve their lives, especially in a time of doubt and uncertainty like we're dealing with now, like people resonate with that. So we're in a pretty fortunate position too, in that business is cranking. I'm feeling pretty fulfilled. I'm focused as I've ever been. That's a good thing too, is like distraction wise, like we talk about this COVID and coronavirus fallout stuff. Distraction wise, like I have very few distractions, unlike any time in my life. So it's a really productive time for me right now.
Yeah, that's like an interesting component with all of this. I think it impacts everybody's life drastically different. But for me, same thing. Now that I can't really do anything, I've just been focusing like 15 plus hours a day on work. And I'm just like
Yeah.
crushing stuff. And I feel like so motivated and inspired because I forgot how much I enjoy working. And not that I've worked my whole entire life, but when you grind it out for like a week straight with 15-hour days, there's something so refreshing to look at the whole week and be like, dude, I did more than most people did in their month in a week. And
No
like,
doubt.
it just feels so good. It's like when you hit the gym and you crush your body, you're like, man, I'm proud of myself for doing that. It sucked, but that was fun. Let's do it again.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of a weird kind of juxtaposition where you think about everything that you've done over the past 6 weeks, let's say, and how productive you've been, and you're so proud. And then you look at it and you're like, well, holy shit, what was I doing for like the last 3 years? like if I've been this productive over the past 6 weeks, what have I been doing for the last 6 months or the last 6 years? And why wasn't I being that productive before? So it's kind of it's enlightening, and like my hope is that when things open up, and they will, is that I remember what this focus feels like, and I don't get distracted with non-essential things. Like I stay focused on what's important to me, the things I've identified.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think a lot of us have had time to kind of self-reflect and realize that there's a lot of low priority things in life that kind of take over your attention. And
Mm-hmm.
when you get all these kind of extraneous impactors away from you, you kind of realize like what's important, like spending time with my family, seeing my father, FaceTiming my mom, putting the work in, trying to be a good business partner, trying to be a good boss, and like all these things that actually matter in life. And you can kind of cut away a lot of just the bullshit in life. But I think some people went the absolute opposite. They went, let's just stick to social media and like complain and bitch about the world and sit on there. And I'm like, man, there's two types of people in the world. There's guys that are like, okay, I'm going to go learn a new language, or I'm going to go learn a new skill set on YouTube, or I'm just going to like complain. And um, I'm definitely that guy. And I think you're the same.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I try to be. I'm not going to say I don't get wrapped up in some of that stuff occasionally.
Well, of course we do. Of course we
Yeah,
do.
but I try to be conscious about, okay, well, how am I spending this time right now, and is it serving me, or am I just getting sucked into Twitter debates and arguments and things that I have no control over. In fact, I was going to tell you, you can see it right here. I've got my guitar. I
Nice.
just picked up the guitar, man. I know you play. So
You got a
if you
couple
have any
back there.
pointers, I see a few of them, like 5 of them. So you're probably a little bit further ahead than I am, but my fingers hurt and I know like 3 chords. So that's good.
The guitar is like anything in the world. It is going to piss you off for like 5 months and you're going to want to quit every single day. And then one day you're going to reflect and be like, oh my God, I can play a country song, GCD, and strum it pretty well. And then from there, the road forward is pretty easy. It's like that initial learning curve of the dexterity between your right and left hand, just like anything. Like,
Right.
you know, it takes a little while to make it intelligible, but once you've kind of figure out, then it's not that hard to get incrementally better pretty fast.
No, that's good to know because it certainly I'm in the suck stage right now. Like last night I was playing and I'm trying to keep up with this app and I couldn't do it and like when I was started I couldn't do it and then I got warmed up. I'm like, oh, okay, I feel pretty good, and then it just went downhill from there very very quickly. I'm like, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? But you got to kind of appreciate the barrier too. Like there's barrier in
Yeah.
whether it's jujitsu, martial arts, right? I know you're into guitar, hunting, picking up a new language like you talked about earlier. There's always, or starting a business, there's always that barrier, and we hate it when we're in it. But I like that barrier to entry because you have to earn it, and it keeps the people out of the game who haven't earned it yet and don't have the right to be there because they haven't earned it. And it frees up space for you to be able to capitalize on those things, whether that capitalize means money, profits through a business, or even just, hey, complete satisfaction or an enjoyment knowing that you overcame that barrier that was there.
Well, it's pretty fun, I think, right? Because you have, I think, normal people that kind of just, a lot of people just exist and don't want to put the work in. And there's something fulfilling about being better than average at a lot of things. And it's a testament to the hard work and effort you put in. I mean, I still to this day play about an hour of guitar a day. And I think,
Mm,
my wife probably liked it day one. It's like, oh my God, you can play Steve Ray Vaughan. And then there's an hour of me just going like, blink, 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 messing up scales, like, shut up. But,
yeah.
and I've been taking singing lessons too. And that's been really, really challenging. So it's like kind of those things that I'm trying to learn over here on this side of the house as well.
Yeah, yeah. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier because you were talking about building up confidence. And I think like what I see is a lot of guys have questions about how to develop and build confidence. And I think simultaneously what they believe is that some men are just born with it. They might look at you or somebody else that they admire, respect, or inspires them in some way and think, oh, well, that guy's just got it. And what they do is they discount like all of the years of effort and sweat and blood and toil and everything that you have done to be proficient at something. And that's what develops the confidence. Not the fact that you were born with it, but the fact that you weren't born with it and you developed it and now you're confident because you did the work required.
I agree. And I think sometimes confidence has an aspect of being courageous because I think a lot of times when you have to be a leader and confident, you're actually not 100% confident yourself, but you're like, fuck it, we're going left, and
Yeah.
then you're just like, oh man, I better figure this out because I have everybody relying on me. And yeah, I think that that's definitely the case. And I don't know if you're born with confidence. Maybe some people are. I wasn't for sure. That was something that came far later in my life. And the more and more I realized I don't give a shit about what people think about me. I'm just going to do me. That's been the most freeing thing in the world because when people talk shit on me or discredit whatever, it's like, I don't care, man, because I know my day is going to be more focused on work and prioritizing my family and my self's happiness than you're going to. And I'm going to
Right.
win. I win. Like I win because I'm going to be happier.
So, but I hear you and I agree with that. But is it the chicken or the egg type thing? Like, do you get to that point where you don't care about what anybody thinks and that's what instills the level of confidence to be able to live your life? Or do you have to develop some level of confidence to get to the point where you're like, you know what? I don't care what anybody thinks because I've got myself dialed in right now.
That's a great question. I think it's a little bit of both.
Oh, did I lose you?
Oh, hello. Hi.
I'm back. I'm back or you're back. We're back.
We're back. Okay.
Did you catch any of that question? I mean, it
Yeah,
was powerful, man.
it was a great question. Chicken or the egg?
That's right.
I think it's a little bit of both, man, honestly, because I don't think that I would have had confidence without feeling like what it's like to be hurt and insecure and all those things. And, I think you get to a place where you don't want to have those feelings anymore. Like I'm sick of feeling not confident or insecure about my art or whatever. And I think that kind of builds you up into a point where you go, you know what? I'm just going to hit the publish button on this YouTube video and see what happens. And a lot of that, because for me in art and creativity, I was very reserved to share that with the world for a long time. And then one day I just started my YouTube channel. And a lot of people that knew me prior to that were like, whoa, what is Matt doing?
What is
That's not
this?
Matt. He's like an
Right.
introvert, and it was like that
Really?
sense of, yeah, I call myself a gregarious introvert, man.
Interesting.
I, a lot of people that see me on social media think I'm like partying and around all these people. Like my favorite times are the lights off in my office, like with a little scotch, just by myself.
Interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that. I didn't know that about you. I wouldn't have guessed that either.
I literally hang out with like three people. Yeah, you could ask any of my close friends. It's yeah.
Well, I guess that's a testament to, though, to understanding, if you want to be successful, you've got to put yourself out there. You've got to, and you have an ability to evolve. Like I hear so many guys are like, I'm just an introvert. So they're excusing themselves of like going out and meeting women or asking for a promotion or networking to some degree so they can create opportunities. It's like, yeah, I mean, you might be introverted, but you get to choose how you're going to behave, and you can decide that, hey, I'm going to go to that event or go to that networking opportunity or go talk to my boss simply because you make a decision to do it and you realize it's going to be in your best interest.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people might classify themselves as introverted because they don't want to take the risk to like socially engage or ask for that raise because that's a risk, right? And there's trepidation
Sure.
associated with any risk because the risk could be failure, and failure alone can be a non-motivator for a lot of people. And I think some people make that excuse like I'm this, I'm that, and a lot of that's just a construct of their own behavior and kind of them making an excuse, for lack of better terms, to act the way that they want. And sometimes the most freeing thing is to go against the grain of what your brain wants to do. It's like it's a very big challenge, but it's awesome. Anything in life. I'm feeling lazy. And if I do that and I don't want to work out, I'll make sure that I crush myself more in the gym. And I'm like, okay, I won't almost not go to the gym again
Don't say that
because
to yourself
that's gonna
again.
happen. Yeah, yeah. It's stupid, but it actually works. And it's like a mental exercise every day. It really is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a great point. It's not stupid if it works. It's funny as because I used to be overweight, out of shape. Like I was in a bad spot. My business was failing. My marriage was miserable. Like it was rough. And one of the things I started doing was getting into Spartan races. And I'd had people in my life would say things like, you're going to go pay to go run. You're going to go pay to get your ass kicked. That's stupid. I'm like, look, for whatever reason, it's working. I feel inspired. I feel motivated. I'm losing weight. I'm getting in shape. I'm developing confidence. So, yeah, I think I'm willing to invest in that. Like, I think that's actually a pretty good investment to make.
Well, yeah, I don't think, one thing fits everyone, right? But
No doubt.
it's like the same thing as CrossFit. Like for instance, one of my business partner, Richard Ryan, the dude has no motivation to work out on his own. So he pays the money to go to CrossFit and then he crushes the gym in CrossFit because there's that community sense and there's the coach going, come on, let's go.
Mm.
Where I am the antithesis of that. If someone is telling me to go faster, I'm like, eat a dick, dude. Like I got my own motivation. So it's like, you got to kind of figure out where you lie in life and what works for you. Everything is
Yeah.
kind of individually focused, I think.
I actually think that's one of the challenges with like the self-development space is people listen to you or they listen to me or anybody else they're inspired by and they're like, well, Matt's doing it, so I guess like I have to do it that way or I have to do that thing or I have to wake up at that time or I have to engage in that activity because that individual's doing it. And then they hate it, like they're miserable. Not like miserable where they're trying to get better at something like we were talking about earlier, but they are genuinely miserable. They just don't enjoy it at all.
Yeah.
And they have to like grind through it every day. It's like, stop doing that. Like, replace it with something that is actually going to move the needle, yes, but something that you at least kind of find enjoyable and fulfilling.
You have to have passion in what you're doing in life to be successful. And a perfect example of that would be I love the guy, Jocko, great
Mm-hmm.
dude. But when he's posting, you got to get up at 5 in the morning. I'm like, Jocko, I get it. You're a fucking motivational, awesome dude, but there's no way I'm getting up at 5 in the morning because I know what works for me. I like to
Right.
sleep in a little later, but then I'm up till 2:30, and that's when I'm the most creative. Is my brain just fires at night, and so that gives me the most success in life is to focus on the environments that benefit me and my business the most and my family and shit than trying to focus on getting up at 05 because I hate mornings.
Right.
So, but that works for him, right? But it just doesn't
Exactly.
work for me.
Exactly. And I think most people are not robotic in that they can understand the concept. Like the concept to me, when I look at what Jocko's doing, the concept is not necessarily wake up at 4:30. He might say it is, but I think the concept is get up early, earlier than you have to,
Yeah.
and take care of yourself. Like that's the message. The message is not wake up at this exact time. The message is get up maybe before you need to, or carve out some time if it's in the evening or whenever it is to take care of yourself, to take care of your body. That's the message. And, most people are capable of understanding that. But it seems to me, and I think this is part of the danger of social media, is that we lose a lot of the ability to decipher context and nuance of what's being told, and we start taking things at like face value, or start like deconstructing. Well, you said this exact word. It's like, yes, but clearly what I was meaning was this. So we do have to exercise some nuance and understanding about what's actually being shared and how it's going to serve us, how it's going to work for us.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with the Jocko thing. I think that the undertone in all of it is putting in the work and being a better individual. And I mean, it's been bizarre. I've been going through so much like psychology shit in this whole quarantine nonsense that's going on, and I found how much of like my day I've wasted um, previously, and not only that, but how much like I was focusing on work that didn't matter. And I kind of spoke to that before, but that's kind of a segue from Jocko to think prioritization of my life and time is the utmost importance, because the only thing you can't buy in life is time, and time is the most fucking valuable thing. It's that, hour playing with the dogs and throwing the frisbee. Like, there are these moments in life that you have to enjoy and not be stuck in the grind consistently. And I found that sometimes taking away from the grind and focusing more on like creating positive and influential environments for your core competency and whatever you want to do in life is more powerful than I'm going to sit on my computer and grind this out. And you're like, I'm just going to go for a walk actually. And then you're like, got the idea that's going to make me hire 10 more people. Yes. And I think that society is like constructed us that you have to be in this constant state of grind and sitting in a chair going, look, guys, I'm working, rather than going, how do I inspire my mind to create something fucking epic and be innovative?
Yeah, because I'm sure, like from the outside looking in, and I know you have a little bit of a glimpse into what you guys are all about because we've had conversations in that. But before that, I think it'd be very tempting for me or anybody to look and say, "Oh, look, they're just playing around, right? They're just dinking around." In fact, I've heard people say that. "Oh, like you're just dinking around on social media all day." I'm like, I mean, that's maybe what you see, but there's a whole lot going on. But I'm not grinding either. I mean, there's emails and things that I need to send out where I'm like, I don't want to do this. But for the most part, like I genuinely enjoy what I'm doing. I don't need to be miserable in order to be quote unquote productive. Like miserable and productive, they're not equal, right? Like
No.
you don't need to be both of them. And I think that's what people believe is like if it's meant to be, or if I'm doing the right thing, then I'm like grinding. It's hard. It's difficult. I'm overcoming this thing. It's like, I actually want to just like go hunt with my son in the morning and then come in and like work for 4 hours way more effectively than I used to work in like 8 or 10 hours.
Couldn't agree
And then
more.
I can spend 3 hours with my son sitting in a blind, laughing, talking more than probably we should while we're out hunting. But that's what we're doing. We're having a good time. And that's part of my life. That's what I want.
No, there's a great point in there. I think, when I was saying like the 15-hour workday earlier, that's not like a testament to look at me. That's because I'm so passionate about what I do. And it's actually kind of hard for me not to invest my time because I love it so much. It's literally like going to Disneyland for me every day when I get up and work on the projects that I love. And I think that's what I hope people find in entrepreneurial journeys and whatever they're going to do in businesses. If you're passionate about something, you're going to stay motivated about it. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like there's opportunity for whatever you're passionate about in life to create, a business or money, at least something off of that idea. And it takes a lot of time. I think when people look at our business, they're like, oh, it just came out of nowhere, so successful. But, I was deploying and, saving a shit ton of money from contracting and like prepping myself to be this vessel that hopefully carries a bunch of business partners and we make a successful company. But that took years and years of planning to do. It wasn't just like it happened. That
Yeah,
was
I
that
think
was a very like all around the circle statement, whatever.
no, it's good. It's good. I get you. I'm tracking. I think most people are. Yeah, I think it's important though we be realistic too. Like when we look at what other people are doing, because I get the same things. Like, oh, you have connections with these great people. I'm like, dude, I don't always have. Or when people say things like, oh, well, it's easy because you have that connection. I'm like, yeah, I had to make that connection. Like that connection didn't just appear. Like I had to put in the work. I had to add value
Yeah.
to that individual. I had to invite. I had to have some level of risk, right? Put myself out there. Those things don't just happen. And when we discount it, and I've done this too, but when we discount what another individual has done to be successful, actually what we're doing is excusing our own behavior or lack of performance. because we're thinking, oh, well, Matt just got lucky. Like Matt and Evan, they just popped up out of nowhere and they just hit it at the right time. So like, if I just wait back and like maybe someday my ship will come in too, and then they don't do the work required of the work that you guys put in to make yourself a success.
Yeah, you can't win the lottery without buying a ticket, right? And I think
Mm,
that that's what it really comes down to. And we've talked about this before, but there's a lot of luck involved. I'm well aware of that with things in my life. Right time, right place to start a company. There was opportunity that was lucky to present itself. But at the end of the day, if you're not willing to work and work through the opportunity, you're never going to be successful. You can't sit back and, just win the lottery on the couch. Like you have to make moves and strategize. And that's not the best analogy, but that's what I think opportunity is in life. You have to create it and be a little bit of lucky and then work your fucking ass off. And it's still to this day. And you're talking about reaching out to people and building networks. I mean, I hit up people on social media all the time, and I probably get responded 1 out of 10 from people that are like artists or I want to do collabs. And so that's a 90% failure rate on people that don't respond to me. And, and I have a pretty decent following, but for whatever the
yeah.
reason, and it's like, I don't let that shit get me down. It's like either A, they didn't want to work with me, no worries, I can find someone else, or B, they're busy. So it's just like, you just got to keep that fucking the positive vibes up. And I think more people just need to smile and be like, it's all right, man. Like,
It's all good.
it's all good, dude. Like, all right.
I try to I made a post because I got a list of people that same thing that you're talking about. Like I want to have these people on the podcast because they inspire me, or I know they'd inspire the guys, and so I
Yep.
have this list of people I want to connect with, and I showed everybody. And I have a system. I'm like, okay, if I have a dash, that means I reached out. If it's an X, that means they connected with me. If it's an X with a circle, that means they're in. If it's just an X, that means they're out,
Yeah.
right? So I had this list, and I had like 12 or 15 people on that list, and there's one circle on there. It's like, this is just the way it is, and it doesn't ever, it seems like it doesn't get, I thought it would. I thought like, oh, okay, well, if we build Order of Man and we get this many downloads and this many people follow on social media, then everybody's gonna be like, yeah, but there's always a bigger fish. And I choose not to take it personally. Like,
Yeah.
if so-and-so doesn't get back with me, I could say that that guy's a dick or an asshole or he's ignoring me, or more likely, he probably just didn't see my email in the sea of the thousands of requests that this individual gets. And that's the story I choose to take because it keeps my mind sane.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's a very challenging aspect of a podcast. If you're going to get guests, I mean, we even deal with that. A lot of people, I mean, this is, two, three of us, the hosts, reaching out to our connections and being like, hey, be on my podcast. And yeah, we get denied all the time because, we our podcast does pretty well, but there's so many bigger fish. And, the expectation for one guest to do, 900 podcasts in a month because there's so many now is completely wrong and not going to happen. So it's just, you just got to keep your head up, man, in everything in life and business specifically, because it kicks your ass every day. It really
Yeah.
does.
How do you personally deal with it? Like I have strategies and ways to unplug and things to keep myself mentally sane. But like, what are some of the ways that you deal with it when you guys are down or you get rejected or a project doesn't work out the way that you want it to, that sort of thing?
Well, I'm probably one of the most competitive people on this planet, and I absolutely hate failure. And it's bizarre because when I fail at something, it actually gets me so fucking motivated to just crush something else. So I don't know if that's like an innate thing that's with me, but if I like put out a music video and it doesn't do that well, I'm like, all right, and it's kind of funny how I've worked with that. I reached out to a satirical country music artist and pretty much got denied because I'm a pro gun guy, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And literally the takeaway from that, I could have been like, man, fuck that guy. And I was like, hey, he can believe what he wants. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go write a country song and make it better than he can. And that's what I did. And outperformed anything that I probably would have done with him. And it was like that moment of, I could have just been the victim. I could have sat back and go, woe is me. No, I guess I'll do something else. I said, fuck it. I'll do it myself. I'll find another way and just be resourceful about it.
What's that? Is that last song that you put out?
Not that one. That was Whistle back in the day because
That's what it was.
yeah,
Okay.
the aggressive one, not
Yeah.
Quarantine.
Yeah.
Quarantine was just a fun time.
That was fun, man. That was really funny. Like to see everybody in there, all the cameos and
Yeah.
everything. That was really, really good.
Yeah, the team put that together really quick. The idea on Sunday, I called Tim Montana to write actually a different country song, and I started
Hmm.
saying, I was like, quarantine, quarantine, and I'm like, dude, let's write that song. And by Tuesday, the video was pretty much done, and the song was completely tracked. It was like 48 hours that thing got done, which was really cool to see
Yeah,
how
it's a quick
awesome the team
turnaround.
was. Yeah.
On your when you guys are creating, so let's say you put out a video or a song or whatever it may be, some sort of art, right? And it doesn't perform, like, do you feel like forcing it helps, or do you feel like sometimes you just need to, like, I'm gonna do it better, I'm gonna do this and this and this, and then you like over fabricate it? Does that make sense? Like, have you done that, fallen into that trap before of like, well, I'm just gonna do this and this, and then you do it and it just comes out even worse because you're forcing it?
Yes, absolutely. The thing I think a lot of people see with my channel, I don't really release things for the sake of releasing them, because
Mm.
what I always wanted was my passion to sustain, because I felt the second that creating a video became work to me, I'm going to fucking delete my YouTube channel. And I would
Mm.
rather put out, you know, one video a month than one every week that I'm not happy with. And yes, even the ones I think might be good, I've had some shitty videos that I put out, well aware of that. But that kind of comes back to the feedback loop. And it's the same thing with art. I think with business is the end user experience. What is the community saying? The community I care about more specifically, because I give a fuck about, some whatever people talking shit, but like the community that I want to inspire, entertain, is like the veteran community, the Pro 2A community, the people that just love America and want to go crush life. Those are the people I want to like inspire. And then how are they reacting to the content that we're putting out? And I'm not saying that we're going to do exactly what their expectation of us should be or their version of us, but we're going to listen because we want to make them laugh. That's the whole
Right.
value add that we want to do in our
Right.
company, is great coffee, but then you get this whole cool piece of a value add of entertainment and comedy and crazy cool stories that are all free, and they cost a lot of money to produce sometimes.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, the stuff I've got, you're from, Pete, right? Pete Roberts with Origin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no of
So
them.
he's a good friend. He lives right up the road. They work right here, and like I know what he puts into his production, and they do high quality production and video as well. And it's like, man, the amount of time, money, investment in their equipment. I'm like, holy cow, this stuff is like, it's legit. Like, it's not just some like iPhone, just
Well,
guys shooting out there. I mean, it's legitimate.
and hopefully this doesn't come off as like a cocky statement, because I don't want it to say it that way, but that's in part why I created a production company, my own, pretty much. And I invested a lot of money into that production company because I never wanted to be reliant on a third party predator, as they call them, or like a contract production company, because they're hyper expensive
Yeah.
and you don't always have the creative prowess to execute the idea that you want. And so that's kind of what we did at Black Rifle, was how do we create an internal production company? So a lot of the stuff we do now is really just time of employees, all of us
Mm-hmm.
shoot and edit and all of that. But that was a cognitive like agreement with myself, going, okay, I'm going to invest in myself to become a better editor. I'm going to take the gimbal out and do track shoots and practice all this blocking with it and see how I can work it. And that has set us up for so much success, because we're able to pull off so much stuff that we could have never done, based off of how much it would cost to hire a production company.
Oh, no doubt. I think that goes back to your passion statement earlier too, because I hear that and I'm like, that doesn't even sound remotely interesting to me. You know what I mean? I'm like, I
Right.
don't, like, there's no, like, in no universe would I want to do that, right? But that goes down to passion. Like, if you're passionate about it, you're going to invest the time and the energy and the resources and like, how do I figure this out, or how do I make this shot work? There's other things that I do personally that maybe you don't enjoy doing, and that's like, okay, well, how do I make this work, right? Because I'm passionate about it. There's meaning, there's significance to it.
100%. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that you do in your life. You're like, this is so awesome. I mean, I have friends like that, like Evan has so many different things he loves to do that I'm like, bro, that sounds so fucking boring. And
Right.
vice versa. I do things
Right.
where he's like, I don't even know how or why you like to do that. So I mean, it's just learning yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Just figuring it out. Well, should we get into some of these questions? Because I
Yeah, let's do
put
it.
this. I figured we'd do this a little different because I do like to mix it up occasionally with the podcasting, and usually I'm just like interviewing guys. But I figured
No,
let's.
let's make it fun. This is kind of like
Yeah,
a
man.
hangout sesh, man. I like that.
So somebody asked, "Is it already over?" No, it's not already over. It's still going. So you can check it out. All right, let's go. Let's check these out. I'm trying to find a good one here. So Michael Wiseman says keys to success in marketing and business with Article 15. Like, is there like one or two or three things that you're like, okay, here's some things that maybe somebody hasn't heard before, Here's some keys to our success with Black Rifle and Article 15, anything like that?
Keys to success. Okay, I'll talk about this. I talked a little bit about in my book, but this was a huge takeaway because, admittedly, it's a sad and refreshing day. But actually, yesterday, Article 15 clothing is pretty much no more. So I
Oh,
dissolved the
really?
company. Yeah, and there is no resentment on my end as far as why the course of that went that way, but there was massive learnings, and that's something that took me a couple years to really get past. Was how do I take something, this baby, my first business ever, that was really successful, and just let it die? Like, it hurt, and I was insecure in the sense of, okay, I'm a bad CEO, I'm a bad leader. There was things that I could have done better. And then when I started to reflect more and more on it, I realized why the Black Rifle side was so successful was the communication between the partners and the leadership in Article 15 clothing weren't kind of synergistic in their approach to the mission statement. I'm not discrediting anybody that I was partner with. They're all great dudes, and I still talk to them today, and I love them, and they're awesome. But we all wanted different things, and we kind of never aligned on that mission statement. And when I met Evan, it was finally that thing where I'm like, oh my God, you want to roast the greatest coffee in the world, make the coolest freaking brand, and then we want to give back and involve in the community and work with charities. And I'm like, okay, you're aligned on the exact mission focus I want. You're not worried about, let's, just snatch grab cash as quick as we can. And if the business tanks, whatever, we'll start something else. Like, no, let's create an enterprise and something people for decades and decades can get behind. And for me, that was the learning in all of this, like building the team that can help get your mission statement done. And the reflection of that would be like a fire team in the military. You need a
Mm,
solid team leader. You need a great saw gunner, right? Core competencies are always different. The saw gunner might not be able to lead like the team leader, but the team leader can't shoot like the saw gunner. And there's all those small core competencies that kind of create this epic team. And that's how I look at business. And that's kind of been the biggest factor, I think, to Black Rifle success. And there's more to it than that, obviously, but it's
yeah.
the team. And we're really like a close, knit group of friends that treats each other with respect. And but we have no problem saying that's a fucking stupid idea that you just brought up.
I've actually heard, I think you've mentioned that before, and then Evan has mentioned that to me as well. Is like, you guys have, I don't know if it's thick skin necessarily, but you've given yourself permission to be truthful and honest, and not get butthurt about somebody who happens to disagree with you, which I think is
Do you want to
important.
know our corporate term? Radical transparency.
Is that hey, the politically correct term? We have radical transparency.
You're a fucking idiot.
That's funny.
Like, ah,
Yeah, because you can't put that in there, right? So you got to put that in
yeah,
the corporate charter, the corporate docs.
right.
All right, cool. That makes sense. Let's see if we got another one here. How about Dylan Beck is asking about Trudeau's gun ban in Canada? Do you know much about that at all? Have you seen anything with that?
I saw it. I obviously inherently disagree with it, but I have not honestly had the time to read up on exactly. But I know that they like ban some like it's just idiot politicians being idiot politicians again.
Yeah, it's as far as I know, and I'm not an expert on this, but he banned AR-15s, and I think the term he used is like 1,500 other variations and models. Somebody sent me a thing the other day of like he banned 10 and 12 gauge shotguns. I don't know if that's true because people send me stuff all the time. Some I don't like go in and check
Well,
it,
I
but that's what
think
he
the
sent me.
biggest thing on this one for me, because I honestly haven't read up a lot of it, but that's what we always have to remember. Some of these fucking politicians, most of them are sneaky little snakes in the grass. And I guarantee what they did is, you know, Canada's worrying about what's going on with the healthcare system and this whole COVID-19 stuff. And they just slide that right in there and they get it passed. And
Right.
it's disgusting. I mean, you hear about that all the time, hiding, weird clauses and bills and stuff. It's just like
All the
fucking,
time.
yeah. And I don't even get into it because it makes me like irate. So
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like there's this line I think we have to walk between not just getting inundated. Like I saw somebody posted on Twitter today, and it was really good. Zuby, I don't know if you know who that is, but he's been on the podcast. He's a solid dude. Anyways, he said, if you don't listen to the news, you're uninformed. If you do listen to the news, you're misinformed. So it's like
yeah,
whether you do it or not, like you're
yeah,
screwed, right? It seems like it's pretty biased and it's hard to get and decipher through all that. That's why I think this goes back to what you said earlier. Is like Focus on yourself, focus then on your family, then focus on your community and your business, the people there, and just start working your way outwards. Start with the smallest unit first, and then because there's nothing we can change and affect at the federal level. Like we've got to start small and grow from there.
Yeah, I think you have to contribute to society and create movements. And I think that's something that why I'm so motivated with our company is I hope that, you know, the 6-year-old that gets to walk into a Black Rifle Coffee with their father, who's a firefighter, goes, whoa, and they see the American flag draped down, and it's a symbol of unity and love and sacrifice and all these amazing things. And we conditioned our youth to like be a part of this and this amazing thing that generation after generation has sacrificed to create. Honestly, how fucking easy are our lives right now? Like, generally speaking, comparative to like 100 years ago. Like, I mean, we got iPhones, we got like medicine, like we're crushing it as a society right now. And I think we have to be thankful for that. And we are the free world leader in America. So that's where I would sit with our company is like, I want to inspire the youth to be a part of this rather than having their, you know, little progressive dad shit on the American flag and talk about why it's racist. And you're just like, what are you talking about? You're the problem, right? You're creating the divisiveness. You're not having rational conversations with people that actually disagree with you on points. You're throwing these fits. And that's why I just don't watch news, because it's just an attention grab for everybody. And people like to get spun up, and that's what they do.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of an entertainment factor than it is anything else. Like my wife and I'll go downstairs for lunch, and my wife and I will eat lunch together just about every day. And we usually pull up like Tucker Carlson, and like if I'm being truthful, I just it's entertaining to me.
Yeah,
Like it's not that I'm trying to get like an in-depth dissertation, an unbiased dissertation on some subject. It's like, no, I want to be riled up. I want to be entertained while I'm eating lunch with my wife, and that's what we do, right? But at least I can acknowledge that
smart
it's
enough to
more
acknowledge that. Yeah,
entertaining than it is informational or educational. You bring up another interesting point when you were talking about hardship. I talked with this guy. His name is Akshay Nanavati. I think I pronounced his name right. And not too long ago, he ran across the country of Liberia, like literally ran across the country.
wow.
And it was funny as we were talking, he's like, yeah, I did it because I wanted to, not because some animal was chasing me, not because some tribe was threatening to murder me and my family. Like, I did it because I wanted to. And we have to manufacture hardship because, frankly, we just don't have any level of hardship in our lives. Like, we don't. Even during a global pandemic, we have no hardship in our lives. And that's not to discount people that are dealing with medical conditions or bankruptcies or going through a divorce. That stuff happens. But generally speaking, our hardships are non-existent.
Dude, it is so funny you say that. Bert, Soren, and I were talking about that a little bit, and I personally manufacture hardship in my life sometimes because you will get soft. You kind of get accustomed to your environment of like, I have the air conditioning all the time, and I think you have to have once in a while a little reset to feel some pain or know what it's like to almost pass out from a workout. My dad was giving me shit because I was walking around bare feet, you know, chopping down trees, getting all cut up. And he's like, do you just like pain? You're just an idiot. Like, put some shoes on, put some protective wear. I'm like, no, Dad, like I like to like get bruised up and cut up. It's kind of, it makes you feel alive. It reminds you that you're just not in this like little plastic bubble of safety, that the nature in the world is a freaking dark place. And we're very fortunate to be alive. And you got to remind yourself of that.
Yeah, I think humans too. I think we crave confrontation because inherently we understand that through confrontation we improve ourselves. So what I've noticed in the absence of genuine confrontation or genuine challenge, we make dumb shit up to worry about.
Yeah.
Right? Like we get mad that somebody on the road cut us off, and we get worked up for like the whole weekend because somebody cut us off on the road. It's like if you actually had something real to worry about, that would be trivial compared to dealing with a death in the family or seeing a brother die in combat or any number of other things that could happen. But that's derailing to you because you know nothing else of hardship, which is a good thing. It's a good thing, but it's also you got to make it up too.
That's the catch-22 in life, man. It's like I get along the best with people that have had massive amounts of tragedy in their life. I've had a decent amount in mine, and I get along with them because like we just don't sweat the small shit, and we're always focusing on the positive and the environment we're in and how do we better it. But then at the same point, you don't want someone to have to go through all that terrible stuff in their life to give them a better perspective. So I don't, it's like when I say on some interviews, like, how do you get the unity of September 12th without the tragedy of September 11th? That is a question I think I'm going to search for my whole entire life. Because you don't want anybody to like see their brother die or something, but then the people that have gone through that have this really profound understanding of life and what love really means. And uh, it's complicated because I don't know how you have one without the other.
Yeah, I don't think you can. I've heard somebody say, be humble or get humbled. And at first, when I heard be humble, I'm like, okay, be humble, like, be meek, like don't gloat, like that's what I thought. But actually, I think the more that I think about that, humility is about putting yourself in challenging situations, because when you do anything new for the first time,
Of course.
you realize how pathetic you are, and it's embarrassing, frankly, which is humility. So you have to put yourselves in humble positions, or it will be thrust upon you. Like,
Yeah.
either you can do it to yourself and toughen yourself up, or life will just do it. And then you'll have to learn that the hard way. Like I went through that. I went through that in my marriage. I've gone through that in multiple businesses. I wasn't willing to seek out mentorship. I wasn't willing to ask questions. I wasn't willing to be assertive and to be receptive to other people's ideas. And I got throttled because of it. It isn't until I learned, okay, well, like, maybe there's somebody who knows something more than I do. That's
Yeah.
the beauty actually of this podcast, is I get to talk with guys like you and so many other incredible people who are doing awesome things. Is like, I get to learn just as much from you guys as anybody who's listening to it.
Yeah, I could not agree more. Sometimes you're going to end up being the smartest guy in the room. It's just going to happen. But I believe in always searching to be the dumbest guy in the room.
Mhm.
And, it's why like I fought to be on multiple boards to include Black Rifles and have to fight for it. I'm an owner, but you get what I'm saying. Because
Right.
I'm surrounded by these dudes with like 30 years of amazing business acumen, people that have just done like iconic stuff in the world of business that I don't know fuck all about. And it's literally like me going to business school, sitting there over the iterations every single week through executive staff and through board members. I'm like, I get the opportunity to learn from a dude that created, $100 million company out of nothing. Like, I better shut the fuck up and listen, because
Yeah.
there's some lessons learned that they got that they can teach me. And I think that's important. And it's terrifying, right, to be in that room, because inevitably someone's going to be like, Matt, what do you think about, a negative cash flow that's impacting the EBITDA line? And you're like, I don't
Yes.
yet purple,
True. True.
true. And you're gonna have that embarrassed moment, but that's how you learn. You'd be like, well, actually, can you explain that to me? And then, yeah, there you go.
Which is, that's funny because you say that, like, and I've been in situations, we all have, where we make something up. Like, I gotta make something up. You sound dumber when you make something up and undermine your credibility and authority, any trust that you had, than if you would just say, actually, like, what do you mean by that? That actually isn't gonna make somebody think less of you.
No, I think it's the opposite,
Yes.
because it's always you've met those guys. It's the constant bullshit. They're like, oh yeah, 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 yeah. We've done that. We've done that. But would I? And then it's like that. Instead of just going, actually don't know what you're talking about, man. Like, what's wrong with that?
Right.
That's how you learn in life. That's like, you
Right.
can't pick up a bow and expect to shoot it. Like, let me go find John Dudley and be like, hey, bro, give me some lessons for like 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. You got to learn. It's funny. I was out with my son. I think we were playing cat. Oh, I was throwing in batting practice. This is what I was doing, and he was doing something in his swing that wasn't right. And I'm like, hey, like, stop for a sec. Here's what's going on. Here's what you need to do. Here's how you correct it. And he's like, oh no, I know. I said, we don't ever say those two words in this house together, I and no. Because if you knew, I would need to be coaching you right now. So
Right.
don't ever say, I know. Say, oh, okay, thank you. Even if you think you know, just say thank you and try to apply what's being taught, as long as it's from a credible source.
Well, yeah, I think even sometimes wrong information or different information can be a great perspective. It's just like the whole there's 100 ways to skin a cat, right? Doesn't mean everyone's correct, but sometimes if someone goes about things differently, it gives you a better perspective. You might be like, wow, my way is actually way better than theirs. Good to
Right.
know. I'm not
Right.
going to do it that way, right? So it's like you have to, that's the thing with life. I think education is so, it's okay, right? Going to formal education, but experience is knowledge. And I think experiencing life, experiencing different cultures and people, and you get this profound understanding of like okay, this is what I should be appreciative of, and this is how I want to live my life. And I think that's the problem a lot. I don't know why I'm going on this tangent, but like a lot of the formal education systems, you sit in a class, get told information, and you're like, this is science. And you're like,
Mm,
no, it's not. We all live different lives. Like the New Yorker in a high rise has a completely different life than me on my acreage in Texas. It's just like we can understand, but one way is not right. They're just
right.
different.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain information that needs to be learned, right? Like if you have somebody who's training to become a brain surgeon, like he would probably need to know
Yeah.
parts of the brain and where to make incisions and everything else. But then there's a whole other dynamic of education, which is this understanding perspectives and having different ideas and different goals and objectives. And I think one of the hard things that I have with the formal education system and is here's what you need to learn, which again is important in some contexts. But the other side that I think is severely lacking is here is how you learn. Here is the way to think with an open mind, to be receptive to new ideas and insights, to figure some things out on your own. So we need both the information and how to acquire the information we need to be successful.
That's a brilliant statement. I absolutely love that. It's interesting to think that we don't teach people how to think
Right.
and
Right.
understand that you're going to be wrong a lot in your life. You're going to get misinformation. You're going to have experiences that influence you to think one way that a lot of that could be wrong. But it's like learning to think and go, okay, all right, it's a tactical pause in life. And I think more people just need to fucking hit that pause button, think for about 5 seconds, and then go. It's like
Right.
when your teacher in middle school said, like, think before you open your mouth, pretty much. It's like take that tactical pause and develop your idea before you just go bleh.
Yep. Or think through it. Like, we have a lot of guys, even guys that are listening right now, who will ask questions in our Facebook group or here or wherever, right? They'll ask questions. It's like, like what have you already tried? Like what do you think? Like have you thought about the answer and like what have you come up with? Like we don't need to be so quick. And I think we should rush to mentors and gain that perspective, but sometimes like we just need to figure shit out on our own. Like, oh, you know what? I've tried 10 different ways and none of them have worked, and now that I've tried this, like what do you think? I think that's a better perspective than saying just teach me what to do. Tell me what to do. No, figure it out. That's going to serve you way better down the road. It'll be
Yeah,
better now for
sure.
somebody to tell you, but in 10 years, it'll be better if you know how to figure it out on your own.
Yeah, that's completely fair. And it's more fun, you know?
That's true.
Life
Good point.
that's I think we miss that a lot in life. Like life is about fun. It's literally the road and the destination is death because you're born terminal. Guess what? Everybody listening, we're all gonna fucking die.
Yeah.
It's like and no matter what you believe in the afterlife or whatever, the reality of this circumstance of humanity on this planet, this is the one shot we get. Mom spaghetti, knees weak, arms are heavy. It's the one opportunity to smile and to love and be compassionate. And I think more people need that. And obviously, there's sometimes violence is needed for a bunch of, people that want to be chopping off heads
No
and
doubt.
pedophiles. But I mean, I think you lead with love, right? And then you always have that violence in your backpack and that tool that you hopefully never have to use, but it's there.
Well, I think that's one thing I really appreciate about you guys because, like, my tendency is to take everything really seriously. Like, I'm not going to joke about it. I'm not going to have any fun or be light. Like, serious, 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 serious. Always so serious. And I recognize that about myself. And I see that in you guys is like, yeah, you can be serious when the situation calls for it. Doesn't mean you're dinking off, but you can be serious. But I like and appreciate that you guys can have fun and make light of situations because I see that as being a gap in what I personally need to work on as well.
Yeah, honestly, laughter is my favorite currency. It is more important than money. It is more important than any material shit thing I owned. I would rather be in a 400 square foot studio laughing every day than in a mansion miserable. And I think that's a perspective that I've really had to drill into my head. That is like, what's most important to me? Like spending time with friends and family that I love and just laughing my ass off. Everything else is just like, salt in the steak. But if as long as I have that, and I'm healthy and I'm happy. It's wonderful.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I love that perspective. All right, let's go back to some of these questions here. Let me
Let's
pull them
go.
back up. Let's do this. We've got through a whole like two so far. We're on a roll.
I got one for you from your YouTube channel.
Okay.
Landon says having a hard time getting up in the morning without work and all, especially because where I live, it's cold and rainy every day. It feels like there's not much to wake up to. Any discipline tips?
I've had this issue in the past, and I'll tell you, it's hard for me to get up when I don't already have my day planned out. to some degree. Like if I have nothing to do that day, I'm like, why the hell would I get up? Like the bed's comfortable, it's soft, it's warm. My wife's laying next to me. I'm like, why would I get out of bed? So for me, planning my night out or my day the night before has been really, really valuable because then I wait. Then when that alarm goes off, I'm like, I know I got to get this stuff done. And to go back to what you were saying earlier, like I'm passionate about it.
Yeah.
Like I knew you and I were going to have a podcast today. I'm excited about that. I'm getting out of bed because I'm getting ready. My son and I, he wanted to go hunting. We woke up at 5 a.m. this morning and I went in, I woke him up. I didn't have a problem when my alarm went off, like no problem at all because I was excited about it. Like I got to wake up my son. We spent a couple hours out in the blind. Like we had a good time out there. So I think when you don't have anything to do, there isn't really a reason for you to get up. Why would you get up? It's way better to stay in bed. Have something to do. Have something to look forward to. And if you do, you're not going to hit the snooze button. You're not. You're going to be excited about getting up and getting after it.
No, for sure. I always look at it also like I don't want my future self to want to whip my past self's ass. And, I think
Yeah,
if like,
for
if I
sure.
didn't wake up for 2 weeks, Matt in 2 weeks would be like, man, I want to go back and beat the fuck out of past Matt because he was a lazy little bitch. And I'm insanely hard on myself with that stuff because I think it's good. But also I think if you need motivation, it's hard to focus on like a big win sometimes. Just focus on a small incremental win. That could be as simple as like, I'm going to get right up and do the dishes in the sink and then make the bed. Boom, boom. 2 positive things. I just cleaned. And then you're like, you start getting that kind of confidence. You're like, all right, what if I went into the garage and swung that dusty kettlebell, 100 times? That felt kind of good. Let's do it 200 times. And you start just getting these wins in life. And then for me, it becomes an addiction of like, how do I just be passionate about something? And that can be the smallest minute task, but those incremental wins, one day you're going to wake up and you're like, oh God, I have a 6-pack from that kettlebell. And oh shit, like I'm starting a business. That's how you get there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we fall into the trap. I know I do of having like these grand plans and objectives and goals, and I'm going to smash everything and dominate the world. And look, that's good. If that motivates you, that's good. But I also think there's something to be said for maybe at times lowering the bar. Like I have guys who are like, how do I start? How do I get going? Like, what do I pick to do in the morning? Like, pick the easiest thing. Just pick the easiest thing. Well, no, I should do the hardest thing first. Yeah, maybe. Or maybe you should just do the easiest thing so you start building up some momentum so that at 2 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you finally work up to the hardest thing and you get it all done. But maybe you just need some momentum, and picking the easiest thing is sometimes the right way to go. The path of least resistance.
Yeah, honestly, not a bad thing. I mean, you're always going to have the days you're just like over whatever you're trying to be passionate about, but you could still focus on something easier. Like, all right, I'll just do that because I'm feeling down today.
Yeah.
What
Or,
you got?
even
Sorry.
I was going to say, even just mixing it up. Like, some days I'm going to work through and pound through emails or something I need to do that I don't want to do. And other days I'm like, I feel like shit. I was feeling like this the other day. I was feeling like shit for no reason, just like feeling like shit. I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, I didn't want to work. I didn't want to send emails. I didn't want to do any edit, like nothing. I didn't want to do nothing. So I went outside and I went for a walk. Like, no pressure, no expectation. Like, dude, I'm out. And I went for a walk. I came back feeling so much better and ready to go after an hour walk. It was awesome.
That's weird. We both went on walks the other day. Evan called me at like 6:30 and I went on like a 4-mile walk because it was an hour plus conversation. I was like, oh shit, I just walked like 4 miles. That was weird. Okay,
Do you
cool.
do that when you're on the phone? Do you do that a lot?
I'm starting to. I never used to. And I found I would just fidget around the house. And now I'm like, might as well go for a walk. And it's more because
Yeah.
I live in the country. So it's just, I'm looking at axis and white-tailed deer and all this cool forestry. So it's kind of good to get out of this realm of prison that I live in for, 15 hours a day in this office. It's a great office, but sometimes you need the sunshine. It's a little vitamin D.
You do. Yeah, I do the same thing. If I get on a call, like we have in our brotherhood, it's called the Iron Council. We have about 25 team leaders, and every quarter I do one-on-one calls with them. And so I do, like, when I'm doing it, I do like, I would say 6 to 10 calls, like back to back. And if I'm stuck in here in my office doing 6 to 10 calls, like, I'm going to kill myself. Like, I can't deal with that. So I go out and I'm out there for like 2-3 hours just walking laps. My field is, if I take the longest route of my field, it's exactly 1 mile. And so I'll walk like 5 or 6 laps while I'm on these calls. And it's like, I'm getting the calls done. I feel energized. I'm outside. I'm walking around. I'm getting the sunlight. That's a good way to crush 2 things at once.
I love that, man. It's something I hope people do more of, just doing something different. I'm kind of a weird hippie, like a gun-toting hippie. But for instance, last night I finished work at probably like 1:30, and I let the dogs out, and I was like, oh my God, it's a full moon. And this is no joke. I laid for 45 minutes with no cell phone, staring at the moon on the grass last night.
Really?
That was my night. Yeah, no
Yeah.
shit. And then I got up and went into bed after, but it was just like awesome. There was just the breeze. There was no sounds. My dogs were laying right next to me, cuddling on the grass. And I was like, fuck, life is good, man. It was such a good refresh moment. Like coming in this morning, I was like, man, that just like reset me as a person for some reason. And I think you got to create those environments for you. You can't be like, what do I do? It's sometimes it's as simple as just staring at the moon. And I know that sounds so fucking stupid, but it's the truth.
No, it's a good point. Like I've got four kids, and sometimes I look at my kids, like my youngest, because he's wild. Like I got more gray hairs from him than my other three combined already. He's only four, and like I look at him, and he does some weird things sometimes. I'm like, why are you doing that? And I'll ask him like, why are you doing that? He's like, I don't know, it feels good, or whatever, right? And I'm like, oh, maybe I'll try it. So I try whatever he's doing. I'm like, yeah, that is cool, actually. I do kind of like that. So I think there's like a lot to be said for looking at our kids, or looking at life innocently in a way, and not worrying about like, oh well, what's somebody gonna think about me if I do this weird thing that my kid's doing, or it doesn't matter. Like, just enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point you bring up because one of these executive courses I went through, they put an object up there and they were like, how many things can you do with this object? And I came up with like 15 and you had like a minute
Mm-hmm.
to do it. And they went into what an 8-year-old thought. And the 8-year-old had like 40 or something
Right.
ridiculous.
Right.
And then you start thinking about the psychology and going, okay, I've developed so many constructs over the years of what, those toothpicks and a cup could have done. But then the 8-year-old was like, you can make a Martian movie. And you're like, what?
What?
And but it's so imaginative. And I think as we don't lose that in our adulthood, we've just constructed so many boundaries of how we should act in society, how we should do this because we might get judged. And if it's a freeing thing to get out of that and go, maybe I'm going to twirl around 10 times with my kid. And that's kind of fun. Fuck if the neighbors look at me and think I'm weird. I'm having a
Yeah.
blast. It's just
Yeah.
like, it's those small risks in life that really, I think, add to the overall happiness.
Totally. It's funny. I don't know if I told you this, but I've said this before. When we moved here, like we'd been doing, my wife and I had been doing CrossFit for about 5 years before we moved here, and we moved here and there's no place to do CrossFit. At least there wasn't when we moved here. So we had tires and we had kettlebells and center mass bells and all kinds of stuff, and we would just go outside in the yard and run sprints in our front yard and like lift the tire up. And I went down to the convenience store at one point, and the lady there had informed me that we have been dubbed the weird workout people because we're like out in the yard just working out, right? I didn't think anything of it, but you know what? I'm like, hey, if that's like the worst that they think about us, then so be it. Like I have no problem being dubbed the weird workout people because I'm working out, I'm having a good time. My wife and I are doing it together, and we're in good shape. So all is good.
Yeah, as long as you remember, like negative jealousy is just a projection of their own insecurities. That's what it is 95% of the time. And, people are like, oh, the weird workout guy. Well, they're probably just jealous that they're too lazy to get off their ass and, swing a hammer. So
Yeah.
once you realize that, you're like, oh God, like that doesn't matter. You're just,
I mean, I even give them the benefit of the doubt because, like, if I was driving down the road and I saw people like holding
true.
one kettlebell up here and one here, I'd be like, "That's weird." I'd say the same thing. You
I
know
would
what I
make
mean?
fun of you if I saw you for sure. I'd be like,
Right.
look
That's
at
what I'm
that
saying.
weirdo. Oh,
Yeah.
look at it.
Exactly. Exactly.
But
So
it
it's
would
like,
go nowhere.
who cares? Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's see if we got any more questions here. I'm just trying to pick out some solid ones. Here's actually an interesting one. So Douglas Eade, I think, or Aid is how he says his name. It says, "What instances would you stop following the law based on principle?"
Oh, that's a question I have not thought of.
That's a really interesting question.
I'm sure that's based off of right now with some of the stuff
I'm
happening.
sure of it. A lot of these are.
Um, yeah, that is a very loaded question. I don't know if I have an articulated response to that off the top of my head, but I mean, I
I have
think
a
that
thought on that.
yeah, please go.
Yeah. So, well, if you look at our founding documents, right? They're like we as American citizens have an opportunity, a right, and frankly, a moral obligation to stand up for our freedoms, our God-given freedoms. So any law or order that goes against that is in direct violation with the founding documents of this country. So yeah, you
That's a
could
great
technically.
point. Tim Kennedy had a great statement on one of our last podcasts. I think it was something to the accord of it's the difference between peaceful rule and dangerous freedom.
Mm,
And, obviously who I am, I think most of us would always side on the side of dangerous freedom. Like we'd rather take risks and have what we have rather than some motherfucker in some ivory tower telling me how I need to live my life, and that, yeah, negative ghostwriter. I
yeah.
don't have like the definable thing of when I
No,
would
I
be
know
like, okay,
it's hard
let's
to
go.
know.
But yeah, it's hard to know. But
And there's so many little nuances and little situations like, well, what? And then you can play the what about game, right? Well, what about this and what about that? Look, here's my thought. If your rights, your God-given rights and your freedoms are being infringed upon, then you have the moral obligation to stand up for your rights and for other people's rights. As simple as that. And look, I know that isn't like a hardline stance on at this point you do this thing, but each of us are free to make that decision for ourselves. Like where at what point do you say enough's enough? Like that's where I draw the line. You have to decide what
well,
that is.
agreed. And I think a part of that for me in any course of like, what's impacting you with the government or life or America that you want to change? It's hard to get to that end state to be like, well, you don't want to get to the point of like, well, guess I got to go fight a tyrannical government. Like
Of
no one wants,
course.
no one wants to get to that point. Where does it start? It starts with cult and breeding hopefully a younger generation into understanding what freedom and love is and all these things. And then the change comes in is getting fucking corrupt politicians out, changing the way we think on a lot of these things. That's how we can make change right now, right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like getting involved at a municipal level and making the change that you can, because if we just stay stagnant, nothing's going to change. And, I think all of us have kind of defined on what that looks like, making change in life. And mine's a lot more involved in veteran advocacy and the veteran community and all of that. And I've put a lot of effort into that. So it's like, I think all of us can just focus on how do we make our change in our life for the things that we want.
Yeah.
And then outwork the people that want to go against us.
Yeah, no, for sure. Out work them, outmaneuver them, out rally them, like whatever organizing people, like whatever we can do to build community. Like you guys are building a great community, like the Black Rifle Coffee community, right? It's not just the company, it's the community, it's the camaraderie that you've built, and you've built a movement. And that's what's beautiful about the time that we live in right now is like we have an opportunity to connect with people unlike we've ever been able to connect in the history of the world, to build communities around some of the weirdest things. I mean, whatever your weird thing is that you do, and we all do weird things, there's like millions of other people who do that same weird thing that would love to like band with you and talk about that weird shit together. And that's what's so powerful. I was talking with my son because we went and got a drink today after we got done hunting, and I said, "Hey, so have you given much thought to like what you want to do when you get older?" And he's like, "I don't know." He's like, "A professional hunter, is that even a thing?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, that's a thing." Like, yeah, that's a thing. Like, and we started talking about Dudley. You mentioned him earlier, and Cam Haines and
Yeah.
guides. And he's like, "Oh, I didn't know you could do that." I'm like, "Dude, you could do anything, whatever you want to do. We can figure out a way to use the internet and rally people together and get people excited and entertain them and educate them." He's like, "That's awesome." And the wheels started turning. It was really cool.
That's phenomenal. He's like, wait, you can do what?
Yeah. Yeah. He was
Like,
blown away. Blew
son, you
his
can even
mind.
be a professional gamer and make millions of dollars now.
Isn't that wild? That's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
I've been doing some of that Twitch streaming stuff, and it's crazy. I've been doing a lot of research on esports, is what they call it. And man, some of like the tournaments, I think League of Legends was watched more than the Super Bowl. So it's going to be
Are you
interesting.
serious?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how much of this esports thing is taking control. And I know a lot of people like discredit it, but at the end of the day, you're watching competition and it's entertainment based. So it's like at first it was a hard concept to grasp. Why would you watch someone play video games? And then
Right.
I watched a couple people talk about it, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's the same reason why you'd watch Tom Brady throw a football is because the dude's world class.
He's talented.
Yeah.
Right. He's mastered a craft. And
He
you're
made
interested
the
in how he's done that.
he made deflate his balls onto the field and into supermodels, but we won't talk about that. But yeah,
Yes. We won't talk about that.
We won't talk about that.
No, I think that's right. Look, I'm not into gaming. I've never been into it at all. Like video game console, I don't have. But I mean, I could see them. I could see it. I could see how it'd be valuable or fun or entertaining. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're more like outdoorsy people. I used to be a nerd, but there are people that just like love video games. They love the technical side of it and all of that. And that's one of those things. It's like you don't need to discredit it because you don't understand it. And
Right.
I think that's a good lesson in life all the time.
What were you saying about? You were saying Twitch. I don't know what that is. Twitch. What is that?
Twitch is a online streaming service, and so
Okay.
essentially, it's like you'll have this camera setup of mine overlaid on your gameplay, and then
Okay.
people can like subscribe to your channel or follow you, and then if they subscribe, it's like a little bit of money, but they get like emotes and all these perks on the channel, and it's very community building, which is
Oh,
cool.
interesting. And
Yeah.
it's all revolving around gaming though.
I mean, a lot of people do cooking shows. Like I have a buddy, donut operator. He does a cooking show, and like thousands of people watch that. And it's,
Oh,
I mean,
really?
yeah, it's just kind of fun because it's like someone you like and look up to, and he's sitting there with his girlfriend cooking, making pickles and drinking a beer. And I think it's almost like a live feed, I guess,
Right.
exactly what it is. And then you can
Right.
do anything during that live feed, whether it's
That's interesting.
range or
Yeah.
games.
I'll have to check it out. I'm not familiar with it. I'm not caught up on all the lingo, but have to check that one out. All right, let me see if there's anything else here.
And then you can we'll get you a fancy board. So when you talk, it comes in like a radio voice.
Hey, I like that, man.
Right?
What other things do you have on there? Other voices?
I should have used this when I cuss so much. Just my standard bleeper, mother.
I need that. What is that? Is that just like an app that you're using or what?
No, it's a Go LXR. So I manage all my soundboard here, so I can play music when I stream and
Oh, that's
all
the
that.
soundboard. Okay.
Yeah, it's a soundboard.
I actually do need to talk with you about that because I've got I can't say too much, but there might be a show that I'm doing, and it'd be good to have some of that stuff so I could work that into the show.
Yeah, let me
So I'll
know.
talk with you about that.
I'll give you all the tech stuff.
All right, so Greg Walker says, "Will you get the vaccine?"
Will I?
You being in the military, you need absolutely no more vaccines. Like you're immune to everything at this point, I bet.
Yeah, whiskey in the military make you immune to almost everything.
That's true, man. I remember that the smallpox shot.
Mm.
Oh, that's a brutal one. Remember they jab you in the arm, they jab you, and they like with that needle. You got
Yeah.
it right? Did you get
Yeah.
the smallpox? Yeah,
I did.
and then they like once it's in your skin, they like stir it around in there,
Yeah.
and then that whole like stuff got all pussy and all your lymph nodes got swollen. That one was brutal, man. Brutal.
Yeah, I think that was like basic, right? When you walk through that line, you get like 4 shots in each arm, and then they stick the penicillin in your ass. They're like, whatever's in your body, we're killing it, guys.
It's
You're
done.
like,
It's
"Oh,
over."
oh."
And it's funny because it's like a conveyor belt, and it's this. I remember it was a woman who did it, and she's like, "Okay, drop your pants or whatever." You drop them, and she's like, "Whack!" And it wasn't like you go into the doctor and they, like they pinch your arm and they put it in there. She just like fisted that thing and just right in your ass, man.
That's why the military made me not like needles. I never had a problem getting shots
Really?
before because it was like, okay, ready, nice
Yeah,
and
exactly.
smooth. And then giving blood so much and having people fish for my veins and popping veins and bleeding out and bruising. And yeah, same thing with the shots. Like they're doing probably 400 of those a day. Like they
Yeah,
don't give a
they don't
shit.
care.
There's a
They don't
bam,
care.
pop, and they shove it in there, and you're like, oh god, it's sore for a fucking week, man.
The worst thing I saw, and this wasn't in the military, it was actually my wife when she went into labor. The first pregnancy, she did the 3 natural, but the first one she did with an epidural. And no joke, man, that doctor came with that epidural needle, and it's a big old needle, okay?
Yeah.
And he had her sit over the bench, like kind of hunch over, like round her back a little, because what they do is they stick that needle through the sac and the vertebrae is kind of the way I understand it.
Right.
So he puts it in there like this, and he's like, "Oh, I'm having a hard time," and he's going like this,
Ah.
and it's like bending in her back, and I'm like, I could feel myself getting lightheaded, and the nurse that was watching was like, "Sir, sir," and she starts yelling at me. She's like, "You need to sit down." And then my wife's pissed at me because I'm about to pass out while she's getting the epidural. Yeah, I was done after that.
It's
man.
like, you pussy, I gotta give
Exactly.
birth and get an epidural, and you're like, I'm a man
I
though.
can't watch
I'm
this.
a man.
I can't watch this. All right, brother. Well, let's wind things down today, man. I really
Cool.
appreciate the conversation. Every time we talk, we have a good time, and man, I learn a lot, and I know the guys are going to get some value from this as well. So appreciate you joining us.
No, anytime, man. I think we should, if you want to repost this or something, we'll get you on Free Range American, our podcast. Unfortunately, Evan had to take off, but we wanted to do that at the office. So maybe in the next couple weeks, we'll get you on our show and promote everything you got going on. So
Yeah, let's do it, man. I'd be honored. I'd love to do that. Like I said, every time we get together, we have a good call and a good conversation. So let's get after it.
awesome, brother. Well, appreciate you so much.
All right, man. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good, brother.
See you, brother.